sweeties, welcome back to Queer Cosplayers Family Kitchen for the final episode of May the 4th month. So, we are wrapping up with a reference to one of the most important objects in Star Wars, that being none other than a Jedi's lightsaber. And what is the key component of the lightsaber? A Kyber Crystal. So, we are going to be making some utterly delicious Kyber Crystal scones. So, without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, sweeties, so we're going to start out with 2 cups of flour, and then we are going to add a third of a cup of granulated sugar right here. There we go. Then we are going to be adding 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. See, this is a 1/2 teaspoon measure, so I'm going to be putting 3 of these in here. 2 and 3. And last but not least, we are going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. There we go. Now, we are going to whisk these ingredients together until they are nice and combined. Alright, sweeties, so we've got it mixed, and our next ingredient, I have cut and cubed a whole stick of butter right out of the fridge, stuck it in there. Then we're also going to add about 1/4 cup of softened cream cheese. So, I checked my measurements and it said a 1/4 cup is about 2 ounces. So just erring on the side of caution, I put 3 in here. So we are going to put that in, and then using our trusty pastry cutter, we are going to cut the ingredients into the flour. So remember, when we've used this before, a lot of the stuff is going to get stuck in here, so you're going to want just a simple table knife that can help you clear it out while you're doing it. Cut. Alright, sweeties, so we've got this all nice and crumbly, which is exactly what we're going for. So now we are going to add our wet ingredients, and we are going to start with 1 egg. There we go. Then, let's see, I believe it is a 1/2 cup of buttermilk. There we go. I'm going to get the cap on that just to be on the safe side. Then, using our measuring spoons, we are going to add, let's see here, a tablespoon of lemon juice. There we go. And last but not least, a teaspoon of vanilla. Let's see here, teaspoon. There we go. So now we are going to mix these ingredients until they are just combined. So you're going to want like a solid spoon or a spatula. Alright, sweeties, so our dough is perfect right now. So we've got our baking sheet, and I've got a silicone baking mat here. What we are going to want to do now is to divide this dough into about 8 pieces and then put it on the baking mat like so. So we're just going to repeat this until the baking sheet is full. Again, recipe yield is about 8 scones. So I've also got Wanda preheated to 400 degrees. So we are going to stick these in once they are ready for about 16 to 18 minutes. Alright, sweeties, we've got the scones in the oven. Now it is time to make the glaze. So in this bowl, I've got 3/4 of a cup of confectioner sugar, also known as powdered sugar. So next, we are going to add 1.5 tablespoons of milk. There we go. There's 1. And I'm gonna eyeball this one, so, and 2. All right, next we are going to add, let's see, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. There we go. Oh, a little bit more almond than we expected, but that's not too bad. That's a good flavor to work with. So now you're just going to take a sturdy spoon and mix this up until we have a glaze. Then what I like to do is put it in a Ziploc bag and then kind of, using a pair of scissors, kind of snip the edge off so it's easy to just squirt right out. Oh, sweeties, these turned out fantastically. So we've got our glaze right here, and like I said, put it in a Ziploc bag and just kind of nipped off one of the ends. So we are going to put a good amount of glaze right here, like so. Going to glaze each one of them. All right. Then once we glaze them, we are really going to make these look like Kyber crystals, because according to Jedi lore, all Kyber crystals are naturally a kind of a nice blue color, but once a force-sensitive individual bonds with them, that is when they take on the color of what we usually see in the Star Wars movies. So it could still be blue, or very often it's either blue or green if you are a Jedi. And if you are a Sith, when you pour basically your hate and malice into your Kyber crystal, that is what gives it the bright red color. So we've got some blue sugar here that we are going to sprinkle on here, give it a nice light coating. But as you can see, I do have one other color here, and that is because there has only ever been one purple lightsaber. So, Mr. Samuel L. Jackson, this one is for you. Oh, sweeties, these turned out beautifully. I know I've made scones before, but these were a lot of fun to do, especially because I got to pay tribute to Mace Windu. But thank you so much for tuning in during May the 4th month. Sweeties, this has become one of my favorite cookbooks. We got to explore so many great recipes out of it. So thank you so much for going on this journey with me. And please always remember, here in the kitchen, we are Grey Jedi. There is no light side or dark side. There is only the Force. There can be no good without evil, but evil can never be allowed to flourish. So thank you so much for tuning in, and always remember the Force.